Now, last month, we told you the Trump administration is reportedly asking Texas state lawmakers to redraw congressional maps to help shore up Republican seats in the midterms. But now some Democrats in California are talking about doing the same if Texas actually goes through with it. Owen Dahlkamp, reporter for the Texas Tribune, is joining us live from D.C. to talk more about this. Owen, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So let's take a step back to that meeting that leaders within the Trump administration had with a group of congressional Texas lawmakers. What did they say?
Yeah, so in early June, a group of Texas lawmakers met inside the U.S. Capitol late at night after one vote to discuss a potential redistricting plan that members of the Trump's political team have brought forth to attempt to essentially get more Republican seats in Texas. Their goal is to spread out some of the Republican voters that are in these safe districts to ones that are in neighboring Democratic districts in order to attempt to flip some of those seats for their party. So far, it sounds like the Texas delegation isn't 100% happy with that plan.
Yeah, not happy with that plan because they think that it could go the other way, right? If you're familiar with Texas maps, you know they're drawn very particular, and some feel like this could put their seats at risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Some have said, I'm a safe incumbent. I won my district by 10 plus points. Why would I want to put my seat at risk just to potentially pick up a few more Republican seats? But if the plan doesn't work, we may even lose more Republican seats than we would gain, and Democrats would have a bigger advantage in Texas.
Yeah, and now California is talking about doing a little tit for tat. What is going on there?
Yeah, Democratic members of Congress have told me that there have been meetings between House Democrats, Democratic leadership, and people within Governor Gavin Newsom's orbit of California, and they have discussed potentially a tit-for-tat redistricting, essentially saying if Texas decides to redistrict in favor of Republicans, we'll do the exact same thing, but we'll redistrict in favor of Democrats. It remains to see how this plays out. Other blue states are also in the mix, I've been told, but it's not immediately clear which of those states would also be inclined to participate.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Is it as risky for those Democratic lawmakers in California who have safe seats? Is it as risky for them to redistrict as it would be here in Texas?
Yeah, it would be incredibly risky to them, but California is a relatively safe Democratic state. There are a lot of Democratic lawmakers within that delegation, and this basically creates an incentive structure to push the Trump political aides who are pushing for this redistricting to reconsider, to say, do we really want to get into a nationwide fight with California and potentially some other blue states, if just to gain a marginal advantage in these upcoming midterms?
Yeah, marginal advantage. We know this is because midterms typically don't favor the party in power, right?
Right. Typically, the party in power loses seats. So Republicans are expected, based on very early analyses, there's still a lot of time before the midterms in November 2026, but they are expected to typically lose seats, as been the historic trend in midterm elections. So they're trying to find any way to counteract that they can.
You know, that's obviously in the House. What are we looking at for the Senate? Again, knowing that it is very early.
Knowing that it's very early, we have Senator John Cornyn, who has officially declared his re-election campaign for his 5th term in the Senate. We also have Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's attempting to unseat Senator Cornyn in this upcoming midterm. Currently, the polling shows that Attorney General Ken Paxton is much further ahead than John Cornyn, but there is still a lot of time. On the Democratic side, we just have 2 declared Democratic candidates who are in serious contention right now. One is Terry Virts, who's a former astronaut and commander of the International Space Station, and one is former House member, Representative Colin Allred, who is declared his candidacy. He ran against Ted Cruz last cycle in 2024.
You know, I think the other thing that's really interesting about this and why this idea of redistricting gets some pushback is because in Texas, it would require a special session just to get this done. The governor has said he's not necessarily sold on the idea, at least he has said that publicly. Would that also be the case in California? Obviously, people here not as familiar with how their legislature works.
Yeah, it remains unclear exactly what the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is thinking, but people inside of these meetings have told me that those inside of his orbit have indicated that their boss could be amenable to a situation like this. We've seen California Governor Newsom. He has gotten into some contentious battles with the Trump administration already, especially over the protests in LA related to immigration, and he may be looking for another political fight, but at this point, it remains unclear.
Right. We know you'll be watching it and keeping us all posted. Owen Dahlkamp, reporter for the Texas Tribune. We thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.